Groove City.
Hey, what's up? I'm Lefty.
And I'm Rich Furniss, and welcome to another episode of Groove City.
That's right. We are thrilled to be back with a very special guest, producer, DJ, radio host, master of ceremonies, does it all. Please
Legend.
welcome the legendary Rimarkable.
Wow. You know, that flips me out when people call me that. I just feel like a baby in the game still.
You know?
Making your mark, though. Making your mark.
Yeah,
That's true.
I will accept that because I definitely have worked hard.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
Yeah.
Going back to your roots in Detroit, we were just talking about that, born and raised.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've been in Brooklyn for a long time also for a big chunk of your life.
I have. I want to also make note that I actually lived in other cities besides Detroit, in my upbringing. I went to high school in East Lansing, Michigan. And I also spent my second grade year and pretty much every summer in Chicago.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, my parents met in Chicago, and I
feel Chicago flair from you.
Absolutely, you know, Detroit and Chicago have a big relationship. You know, they're cousins.
Absolutely.
And Chicago definitely influenced who I am as well. You know.
I'm kind of curious, you know, the Chicago and Detroit influence, how did that like affect you coming up in music? Did you start music that early on in life, and did that kind of influence what you listen to?
Well, what we call house and techno, even hip hop actually came about as I was growing up.
Yeah.
And it was very much a part of the local culture. And so that stuck to the fiber of my being, you know?
Yeah.
And there's no separation. There's no gap. There's no separation. It's just what I know and what I believe in, you know, in terms of music. And the foundations of both of those music come from Black music, of course, Black soul music. And the foundation of that is the Black church. And I actually grew up in the Black church as well. And so those sounds that energy is definitely my foundation.
Yeah.
You know, that 4/4 is just who I am, you know?
Yeah, you know, you grew up in Detroit, you go to Chicago, you're like, oh, over there, they're into this. But here you guys are into this.
Yeah.
Even now as like a touring DJ, you kind of like play different sets in different cities anyway. No
Absolutely. It's so interesting. I'm so glad you're talking about that because it's something I want to say coping a little bit with because not that anything that I play is inauthentic, but sometimes I have to shift, you know, with the audience.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes people don't really fully get who I am, but I guess I'm all of those things, you know?
You know, I've definitely had that same internal conflict because it's like I played very different sets in New York than I do in Denver.
Absolutely.
I go out to Denver and I'm like, they don't know me the same way they know me here.
Exactly.
But you know what? They only know you there anyway, so it doesn't matter. So they know you as that. As when you're there, you're doing that, and that's how they know you, which is...
Well, I also think you have your own, even if you're playing different tracks, you have your own signature way of playing those tracks that I think identify you in different cities. And I think a lot of people, when they first start DJing and touring, they have a really hard time with touring because you're like, oh, well, this is my set. But like realizing how you can adapt that set to fit the audience, because ultimately you're still there to curate for the people and take them on that journey, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's just about tapping into the audience and tapping into what you offer as a DJ, you know, just being sonically one with that.
When did you first pick up DJing? Was that your first musical adventure? Or
my first musical adventure, my mother's a classically trained pianist. And so I went to sleep every night with her playing sonatas. And
wow.
And also I had the influence in church. So the first thing that I did musically was sing in the church choir, and I did not take up piano, and I feel awful about that. You know, I wish my mother had made me because it would completely change how I do things now. But as a producer and even just as a musician, but in high school I played the bass clarinet.
Okay.
And it's such a nerdy instrument.
I love it.
But it's super dope, you know?
Yeah.
So far, I'm 3 for 3 in the trajectory right now, which is hilarious.
But later on, I actually taught myself how to play drums. I always wanted to play drums. I'm a drummer at heart.
I think that's a big part of DJing is knowing those rhythms and grooves.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you still play drums?
I haven't played in ages, and
We have a kit for you if you
I'm
want.
very sad about that. I would love to. I actually one of my next big purchases I think is going to be a drum set.
I love that.
Because I have to get back into it. It's just
Yeah.
I love it so much. But back to DJing, because I was heavily influenced by all of this music and all of these genres, I had to grasp or get a taste of it from the radio. So when I was coming up, just like a lot of DJs have this story, I would record mixes from the radio.
Yeah.
Cassette tapes.
Cassette, the pause tapes, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that I was doing that, but I was,
Right.
you know? And so I had this huge collection of tapes, and all my friends knew about it, and I had this box of tapes, and every time somebody would have a party, it would be like, bring your tapes, bring the tapes, bring the tapes.
Yes.
And so I would be DJing and didn't know that. I was DJing,
You'd be
you
in
know?
the car with the pencil doing the rewind.
Of course,
Rewind.
you know? Of
Gotta catch up.
course. I still have a lot of those tapes, actually.
Yeah, sick.
I love that. I found a
And
box
I've
of
lived
mine
so many
recently.
places,
You should
but
transfer them to digital and
God, it's so hard finding time for those sort of projects.
This
But
is
send me a
sad.
couple. I'll
But
do some for you.
Oh, okay,
I
no,
want to hear
deal,
these real bad.
deal. But when I was in college, my sophomore year, I didn't want to go back home, and I was just scouring the one ads in the back of the school paper, and there was this company which we DJs, old school DJs, referred to as mobile companies, were looking for DJs, and it was like no experience necessary, blah blah blah, big pay, blah blah. I was like, yes, that's for me, you know, and I basically, you know, bullshit my way through the interview. And the only thing that was my saving grace was my music knowledge. Detroit and Chicago radio is outstanding.
Always been.
You know,
Absolutely.
and
Facts.
the spectrum of my music knowledge was very impressive to them. You know, there's just seeing this Black girl and she knows who the association is, you know what I mean? Or even can write down some songs from Frank Sinatra. You know, they give you a music quiz in the interview and they're like, holy crap, like, who are you, you know?
Yeah, nice.
And so,
Said, just dropped my latest mixtape. Check
exactly,
It out.
check it out. You know, but what was so cool about that experience working at that company is it was owned by a woman and ran by women. And this was before any of that sort of thought or like political statement was around, you know. It just was what it was, you know. And I came up on the roster of like 10 DJs, most of them male, but a couple women. And the women taught me how to play, taught me how to use the equipment. And one of the beautiful things about, sorry for touching the mic.
That's
Oh,
all
you're
right.
good.
I got scolded about that earlier.
No.
No, not in that way. One of the beautiful things about this experience also was that I learned the music business. That was part of my education. I was taught how to present myself as a DJ professional, I knew how to use the equipment. I knew how to break down the equipment. I knew how to just be aware and utilize a number of DJ skills. You know, I had to learn all of that stuff, and it has taken me very far. And so my very first gig was playing for the Chamber of Commerce in Canton, Michigan in 1997 this month.
Oh, wow.
You know, so
Nice.
that makes it 27 years I've been in this game.
Let's go.
And I'm super grateful for my journey. And I used to, you know, hate those kind of gigs because I'm like, oh, I want to be at the club, blah, blah, blah. But, you know,
Honestly,
it taught me how to play for everybody.
I think that's one of the things, though, is like being a mobile DJ teaches you how to play for every audience. It teaches you how to set up and break down the gear, which so many DJs don't know the music business part of it.
Yeah.
I think going through and like you talk about like, you know, going through the ropes and stuff. I think being a mobile DJ is such a great place to start because it forces you to learn all these things that other people who just hop into the club don't have to think about. Hey, the CDJ isn't working. How do I fix it? Oh, well, this crowd is way different than what I prepared for. All right, I have another crate for that. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely. It was an amazing experience, and yeah, it really just put me ahead of the game. So I'm not exhausted as a lot of DJs are because it's just like in me at this point, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I have my trials and tribulations
Everybody
and
does.
get burned out like everybody else, but like, I'm not gonna, this is just who I am now. You know what I mean? I'm just out here. But eventually I started working in the clubs and after...
Do you remember the first club you played at?
It was probably like a bar in Taylor, Michigan, like a club in Taylor, Michigan.
Okay.
Which is like downriver, as we say in Detroit. It's just kind of like a factory town.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely was this little sports bar in
Nice.
Taylor, Michigan.
One of my first was a sports bar as well. I feel it.
I mean,
They're readily
but
hiring.
it worked out, you know. And I was DJing when the CDJ just came out.
Okay.
And when they had the drawers and you had like a cube.
Oh,
You know, it was like a box, and the drawers would come out like this. And I remember the equipment in that bar was a Denon 2000, I believe. And
that was one of the first ones.
and it was the first time that I saw pitch control. It wasn't the first time I saw pitch control. Excuse me. It was the first time I saw the very first introduction of what we know as stems now, or what like Serato stems. Like you could isolate the vocal in on that model.
Whoa.
And it was so
know if I ever
like
did
faint,
that.
but it was still
Yeah.
significant, you know? So you could like do some things.
You
It
could
was
do some
pretty dope.
things.
It was pretty dope.
I remember those old Newmark rack mounts. as well.
Yes.
yeah.
It was Newmark and Denon. I don't know if Pioneer had something back then.
I think they started in.
They didn't have the rack mount version though. They had like
Yeah.
a small. It was a tiny jog wheel, but it was still flat. It wasn't a rack
okay.
mount.
95 or 94, I think, was the first CDJ.
Oh, when the ones
Pioneer.
that popped up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yo, that was revolutionary though. Like
It was.
that was cool. You know, I used to go to DJ conventions in New Jersey, DJ Times conventions. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, man, like I remember the days.
Yeah.
I'm an old lady in this game, you know, but it's all good. I still feel young and vibrant and looking forward to the future, and I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon.
Do you feel like DJing on all that different type of gear kind of improved your creativity, improved the way that you were able to DJ because you had to be able to adapt to different systems and different ways of DJing?
I think in the aspects of it being like just me being adaptable in general, like I teach now, and I am an advocate of using whatever you want.
Yeah.
I don't like the conversation, the DJ Twitter conversation.
The sync button.
The sync button and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against the sync button, I'll be clear, but I don't want people to learn that way.
Yeah.
It's about knowing the tool so that you can use it to improve and step above where it would be otherwise.
Exactly. You know, I mean, we can go 1,000 directions in this. I'm trying to lasso it.
I'm just glad we got the official
But-
Remarkable statement on the sync button
Yeah.
right here.
If
Active
that, I mean,
City.
you know, like I've been thinking about starting to use it, to be honest, because I am older now, and my hearing, you know, some of the mid and the bass
Yeah.
can't compute
Yeah.
a little bit, and things get
You know
thrown
what's
off.
crazy? Nobody's gonna know.
No one's gonna know. Exactly.
Nobody's gonna
No
know.
one cares, you know.
Nobody cares.
No one cares but the judgmental DJs that are coming behind you, you know.
Right.
Just make sure you turn that sync button off so the person after you can
Doesn't get
make
messed.
that
That's all.
decision.
Honestly, that's the real
That's
reason.
really it.
That is the actual reason why most DJs hate it.
Yeah.
Judge people for it
'Cause
because
then it
they
throws
don't know
it
how to
off.
work around it
Yeah.
when they get up there.
Listen, I played after some huge legendary DJs. This is a duo. I'm not gonna say their names.
Uh-oh.
Legendary. I was so honored. Like they mean so much to me, and they still do, you know. But I didn't know. I was so enthralled with them. I didn't notice they weren't using headphones for their entire set,
Yeah.
and they left the sync button on. And then I get in, and my song's like, because I'm ready to go,
Yeah.
and it was just like, and I was panicking, you know, not like Grimes or anything, but like panicking. And then my homie Mr. V, who happened to be there, swooped in and unsank the sync button for me. But yeah, that's also important. Like, there shouldn't be any argument about that, because it's like, why don't you know how to turn the sync button off?
Know the equipment.
Sure.
That goes back.
We
to
don't
that
know
of
the
knowing
equipment. Like,
Yeah.
why are we so arrogant about it? Like, why aren't we learning?
You know, I always say that if they're going to put the feature on the gear, you're more than welcome to use it.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I love technology. You know what I mean? I'm a grown woman with sciatica. I don't want to carry crates and crates of vinyl around anymore. I love the ability to walk in with my backpack and shut it down. You know what I mean? Like,
you know, I mean, I love taking that tempo fader and just going stuck between 2 decimals. And I can't get it to land on the even number.
Yeah.
I love that. That's why I don't use sync button, because I want to sit there for way too long.
Exactly.
Oh, 24.1, 23.9. I'm like, fuck. Kills me every time. And I'm like, I could just hit the sync button and it would work.
And
but
it just would work. I'm going to waste my time.
For prosperity.
You know, but I mean, not to say I don't love those other outlets. You know what I mean? I still think vinyl sounds amazing. And
it all has its place, right?
It all has its place. I just don't want any limitations.
I agree.
Especially when there's so much technology and so many cool things. You know, I just nerd out about that stuff.
Me too.
Give me that stuff.
I wanna zoom out real quick. So, you know, your start of DJing and like now you have so much going on, and you know, how did you kind of raise yourself up in the DJ community and be able to like build your audience and build your artist personality as large as you have? What do you think were some major contributing factors?
I always believed in myself.
No, that's a real thing.
I mean, no, it totally is a real thing. It's funny. This sort of conversation has been coming up a lot for me lately. So I've been talking about this a lot. When I came to New York, because I left Detroit in 2005 and I moved to San Francisco, and then I moved to Oakland, and I didn't know anybody. I moved sight unseen, and I just jumped in and built myself up then. And I just kind of did lassos around that place. Like, it was just boring. And I was like, no, I need to go to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Fran gets pretty small pretty quick.
Yeah, like I did my thing and it was like, oh, all right, what's next? But
Slims, you play at Slims out there?
I didn't play at Slims.
Yeah.
I actually had an art gallery in Oakland that I turned into a venue.
Yes.
Oh,
I love.
Yeah, you know, I turned it into a venue and I threw my own parties.
There you go.
And eventually I started a party called, wow, what was it called? Venus Fly Love. It's so corny now.
That's pretty sweet, actually.
It was a house music party, strictly for, not strictly, but centered around women, because a lot of women were getting harassed in the house music community. And just assaulted and just weird stuff. And so I've always been a solution-based person.
I was going to say that. I feel like that's exactly, you saw a problem.
Yeah, I saw a problem and I fixed it. And I was coming from Detroit and I'm like, y'all don't know house music out here. I got to do it myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Educate real quick.
Absolutely. So by the time I came to New York, I was very blessed to come in with friends who had already been established here and could introduce me to the right people. And I started doing some parties that really went well with promoters. And then I started getting pigeonholed, and I knew that I was going to be limited if I was pigeonholed. So I started throwing my own parties.
Here
in New York. I started throwing my own parties.
Where are we doing those at?
In Brooklyn, mostly.
Yes.
Yeah, in Brooklyn mostly. And I would guest around. I had a residency for almost 5 years called Everybody Random. And
I like that one.
I had another residency for 4 years called Stank Face.
You're killing it with the names right now.
I was doing them in
like specific venues.
I mean, I did
around.
Stank Face at what is it called? It's on Classon. I'm gonna come back to that. But I did because I can't think of no.
What is that? Come on, everybody down there.
No. Anyway, I did Everybody Random at a venue called Bedvine Brew in Bed-Stuy, actually. And that at that time, that venue was just a very special place. And I eventually became the booking manager there as well. So I was curating all the events there. So that was pretty cool. I can't remember the name. It's just on the tip of my tongue.
It'll come back.
Google it, honey. Google it.
Well, I think the venue being cool at that spot too plays such a big part in building your night as a DJ and being able to do that. Because if you have a venue that understands and can, help you grow that, and the community around your event is like the biggest part.
Absolutely. And speaking of community, I started a party in 2016 called Joy. And it was centered on LGBTQ folks of color, and it was multi-generational. And I started it because I had business partners at the time, and I had the idea that we needed to gather because this tragedy had happened in Orlando at the time. I'm sure you remember when the club got shot up by a very sad person, and everybody was just devastated. The community was devastated, and it was during Pride, which was super interesting, like the timing of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And that party was super successful, and then I saw that there was a need for it. There was no party like that, just multi-generational, just people from all walks of life, and it was just beautiful, and people were hungry for it, and just kept going with it, and it turned to be really, really massive.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened, and other tragedies happened.
Squashed everybody's plans.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of other things that happened, but
well, one of the big things that I feel like is a centerpiece of a lot of your stories is like you like, and as a DJ, I think this is an important thing, is like you are kind of a community leader in some ways. Like you see a need for people, or a way to need to bring people together, and you kind of help facilitate that. And our platform as musicians and as DJs is to bring music to help bring these communities together, which I think is a beautiful thing. That's a centerpiece.
I'm grateful for being aware of that, because it is such an important piece of being a DJ, and it's difficult to walk away from that, and not that I'm walking away from it, but I had to step away from it a bit in the way that I was doing it. I stopped creating my own events, and I realized, wow, I've been doing this for like 20 years. I need to open myself up or elevate to another level, and I stepped into other communities and started doing bigger venues and, getting my sound and my name out and other places. So a lot of people, when they see me, they're like, keep doing what you're doing. You're going to do great. I'm like, okay.
I said, I already did great.
I already did great.
I'm still going.
I'm still going, or some people just haven't heard of me, or, I think that's cool too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's kind of like, damn, just
I think
do a
that's the
little
myth
research.
of the overnight success. Everyone's like, oh no, this overnight success has been 20 years in the making.
It's been 20
trust me.
years in the making. Absolutely. So yeah, I do miss being a physical community builder in terms of like.
I think you still offer that though in other ways by doing
absolutely
other events.
like the radio show that I do.
I was going to say the radio show is a big part of that as well.
That's like my outlet. It's like how I get out my need, I get my fix, and I'm super grateful for that platform, because I can touch communities all over the world.
Exactly.
And it's super important to me.
Nice.
You just elevated it. Now it's a different way that you touch those people.
Absolutely. And I have a little background in broadcasting and just doing mic work and things like that. So it just kind of came.
You have one of the most recognizable voices. As soon as your voice hits, I know instantly it's you.
Yep.
I love that.
I could be in the other room and somebody puts something on from you and I'm like, oh, no, wait.
Oh, wow. I love that. I hear that about my voice often.
It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm grateful. Branding is key to this game,
I also want to point out that I did enjoy your live streams during the pandemic very much.
Thank you. You were watching?
That was a good time. Yeah, I tuned in for a bunch of those.
Oh, wow. That was really a relief for me. And that was my way of building community also.
Yeah.
And it was a sacred, lovely time, as hard and difficult as it was for the world. Tragedy was happening around us. But that was a sacred time. Those podcasts, those broadcasts, like, man, just the way.
Hold it down.
Yeah, we had to hold it down,
It was something that everybody looked forward to, I feel like, too. And it was a way to bring people together. It's like, all right, maybe like we're all upset about the world around us, but at least for these moments when we're tuning into these, it's like
something to look forward to, you know?
And it was like going to the club in your bedroom or in your living room.
Pajamas, man.
That was everything. Having a little charcuterie board and
No, for real though.
Getting it in at the club. It was so fun. I miss it sometimes. It was just kind of like our first round of apocalypse, I guess, but It was it was lovely and warm.
It was.
For the time it was.
I feel like it's been a pretty busy year for you in the release world. I wanted to ask, at which point in your career did you start releasing music?
My very first release was 2006 actually. I did a track with a producer who is no longer with us. His name is Gregory Del Piero, and he was a producer out of, he was from France, but he was based in San Francisco. And one of my dear friends, Mike Clark, Agent X from Detroit, came into town and introduced me to him. He's like, yeah, my girl, she sings. You should have her, you know.
Yeah.
And so I sang. I had my first release on that album. And then I started doing a bunch of stuff, but I started getting burned by a lot of producers, you know, like not crediting me with things and just blatantly stealing my work, you know? And
sucks.
I didn't know anything about that side of the business. So I was getting stomped over, and I kind of just shut down.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to release with anyone. So I taught myself how to produce.
Yes.
And
Nice.
I started producing my own stuff. And I released a track in 2011 as a producer with a vocalist named Valerie Trout. And it's called, what the heck is the name of that song right now? I am so blank today. I can't remember my life.
On screen.
It happens.
I can't remember my life. Peace Lives Here. Yes, that's what it's called. And I took a break after that because I didn't feel like my stuff was polished enough for big releases. And, you know, and then a dear friend of mine, Wajid, one of my best friends and big advocate of mine, he was like, what's going on with your music? What's going on? You know? And he's like, nah, like we got to do something. And he helped me, and we started recording music together. And I released a track with him called I'm in Trouble in 2018. And it took the world by storm, and it got the attention of so many people. It was just kind of magical. And
I feel like that was around the time you were kind of started talking a lot to Defected and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's when they started. We started, I would say, courting each other around that time. They definitely swooped in like, what's up? Who are you?
Yeah.
Well, excuse us? And shout out to Luke Solomon, who was the first one to reach out to me.
Oh, dope.
He's become a dear friend.
Does he live here now?
No, he doesn't live here. I've heard rumors of him eventually coming here soon, but
I saw him one day. I was at my deli by my house on the corner, and he was like randomly across the street, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to say something. I go, Luke Sullivan. He's like, huh? And I was like, yeah, man. I said something stupid. And just to make him feel a little special, you know? Just so that he goes,
I love that. He's a super special guy.
He is, yeah.
He's very humble.
Never met me before.
He's very
no
humble.
idea.
So that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So you know what? I'm going to give him some love here in public on the street.
Absolutely.
Let him know.
Absolutely.
Can only help. But yes, a lot of exciting releases. I mean, you just had a release on Nervous recently.
Yeah, I just had a release on Nervous. It was like kind of my return to my own productions.
That's like just you record,
That's
no
just
feature
me,
vocalist. You're on the vocals.
I did the whole thing.
That's amazing.
That's me,
From start to finish.
Yeah, you know.
Do you feel like now that you got into it, because from me listening to you and not knowing this whole history before, I feel like that was such a logical next step. Like you obviously know music so well that once you kind of like dove into it, do you feel like it kind of came naturally?
Absolutely, you know. I mean, as DJs, we are producers, you know. We know a good DJ knows how things should be placed, you know.
Yeah.
I think a producer is just an organizer, you know.
Yeah.
I've
That's
already
what a DJ is too.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually feel that producer should be the last thing that you do in the succession. I think the very first thing you should do is be a dancer. And then I think you should be a DJ because the dancer element can influence your work as a DJ.
Agreed.
You're playing for the dancers.
Yeah.
So if you are a dancer, you know how things will land and how things will affect the body. You know,
Yep.
How things affect the body is serious.
Mhm.
And a lot of DJs don't consider that when they're
They don't.
playing. And
my mother told me, so I decided I wanted to be a DJ at 14. She's like, cool. If you want to be a DJ, you have to take dance lessons first.
Wow.
And she made me take
she's so smart.
four or five different styles of dance.
She was
and then
so
I became
smart.
the DJ. And I agree with you. I mean, I think understanding the body mechanics and how a beat will move your body influences the way that you'll play records.
Yeah, and it's not like something that has to be so academic. It should more so be subconscious, intuitive.
Yeah.
Those things marry each other out of an intuitive thing, or become an intuitive thing. And then I think you should become a producer, because you have understanding of all the stuff.
Of the crew.
And some producers don't make songs for DJs.
This is true.
And I think that's why those two things need to go in succession, or three things should go into succession.
I agree.
Totally. I started on the dance floor, and then I started DJing at the club that I would party at all the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's
because the guy who ran it, he's like, "You'll know what to do," and I was like, "Oh, I will. Put me up there, bro. I'm ready to go."
Exactly. Let's go.
I got the bite, and I went in, and it was great.
The rest is
been
history.
Stuck ever since.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I did want to ask a little bit more. Let me see how we're looking on time.
I know we've been chatting.
We've been chatting it up.
It's a good convo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we covered a lot of exciting things. We should probably wrap it up. But why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you on the internet if they don't already know?
I've made it super easy for everyone. You can find me at I am Rimarkable, and Rimarkable is spelled with an I, not an E. Yes. I am Rimarkable every single place.
Sweet.
Website, internet.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
We are really excited for your DJ set. Yeah.
I'm excited too. I don't know what I'm going to play, which is what every DJ should say.
That tends to be the most common answer here anyway. So thank you so much
for
joining us, Rimarkable.
Thank you.
We appreciate you here. Make sure everybody checks out the link below to check out her amazing DJ set that's going to be on here. Thank the Sound Collective for hosting us here. I'm Rich Furniss.
And I'm Lefty. Thanks for watching.
Much
Peace.
love.